Okay. I'm not sure I can answer this right now. Oh, okay. All right, so we are back, and I'm here with Carlos. Carlos, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, been on the team for about 4 years now. Little right at 4 years. Started off working on live events with Cathil and a couple of the other guys. Jumped right in with doing some dungeons in TSO. From then on, I did dungeons pretty much primarily until um, this past expansion, where I did a little bit of itemization and worked on mercenaries.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So what's your favorite thing about today? We've got the Freeport revamp, we've got AOD coming out, and we're also going free to play.
Well, I mean, obviously, the best thing that I'm looking forward to is seeing players' reactions with mercs. I really put a lot into them, and I'm hoping that they're a really big hit.
Okay. So what specifically did you work on with Mercenaries? And can you tell the players a bit about Mercenaries from a technical aspect? Like what do they need to do to get a mercenary and things like that?
Sure. So mercenaries are they're pretty complex. At first, we kind of looked at them as it would be kind of like a pet, but we took them a little bit farther than that. We really went in depth with the scripting of the brain so that they're a little bit smarter than a normal pet. They're not quite as smart as normal players, but they're enough to get the job done. In most areas, I mean, we're not gonna make them so powerful that they're gonna really be able to stand up in hard raids and stuff like that. But they'll get the job done in most areas. As far as how many there are and where they're at, they're in the two major cities for the most part. There's five in each city. However, if you want one of the other mercs from one of the other cities, you can go there, sneak in, hire them. Once you've hired them once, they'll show up in your city as well. So that way, if you want to go back and get them again, you can. Um, Now, when you hire a merc, they're going to stay with you as long as you want them to. You can suspend them so that they're kind of hidden for a while. They don't charge you upkeep. But when you bring them back out, they'll charge you upkeep as soon as you bring them back out, so that you can't, just turn them off and on at will just to save time. Um, as far as other mercs, there's two other mercs currently. They're out in the world. I'm not going to really divulge where, but they're really cool. They're a bit powerful, but they're also extremely hard to find. So hopefully some people can get some of those and have some fun with them.
Okay. All right. And how many of the special mercs are there going to be?
Right now there's only two. We wanted to keep them kind of limited and see how they play out. We'd love to do more. We'd love to do some even cooler things with mercs, but we want to really nail um, the concept before we really try to do anything outside the scope of what we wanted to do with the expansion.
Okay, cool. And we're going to open it up to player questions. So if you have any questions about Mercenaries, please go ahead and just chat it right now, and we'll try to get those questions answered live for you. We do have one right now, actually, from Pretty Pyro. They ask, how many mercs can you have?
So right now you can only have one merc at a time. The way it works is you hire a merc, and they stay with you. You can suspend them, bring them back whenever you like. Once you do suspend them, you do have a 2-minute cooldown before you can bring them back. That also applies to when they die. Um, and that's just kind of to keep it from being exploited, that type thing, especially for PvP and stuff like that. But for right now, you can only have one merc at a time. If you'd like to switch out your merc, you can go to the city, find another merc, and hire them, and they will take the place of your current merc.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Thanks for answering. And then Octavian asks, are the special mercs trackable?
I thought of that. No, they are not trackable.
Okay, and we've got another one. Clars asks, will the rare mercs cost more than the normal ones?
Absolutely. The rare mercs are very, very powerful, and because of that, they have a very steep price. Um, I'm not going to go into exactly how much they cost because we might vary it based on how powerful the mercs are, but they are significantly more in price, both hiring price and upkeep.
Thank you very much. And Valerius asks, will mercs cause aggro?
So the way that the code works for the mercs is they work exactly like players. If a merc gets too close to an NPC, they're going to aggro on just as if they were a player. So yes, they will definitely aggro. You will not be able to do things that you do with pets, such as like pet pulling and stuff like that. They will react just like a pet or just like a player. So if you try to pet pull with one, you'll probably get the whole room.
Thank you. And Zoria Freeport asks, how many rare mercs can be in the game at one time?
So I know at Fanfare we talked a little bit about having some notable named mercs, but that ended up being a lot harder to do than we had thought, and we didn't want to put it in and it be kind of half done. So we're kind of saving that for later, and we're going to look at that as time goes on. So these right now, even though they're extremely rare, and I mean very rare, you and as many people as can find them can have them at once, but they're not limited to one player at a time.
Okay, cool. And if we don't have any more questions, we're actually going, we do have a few more questions. Just give us one moment and we'll get those answered for you guys. Do you want to talk a little bit more about other things with mercs that maybe hasn't been covered yet?
Can't really think of too much. I know a lot of people have been asking about how will they be used and will they be able to be used in raids. That came up right away at Fanfare when we announced it. And the answer is yes, you can use them in raids. I wouldn't recommend relying on them heavily for raids, mainly because they're kind of made to fill a role in the group, not necessarily a role in a raid. So they're not going to have that response time that's needed for a raider to actually react to a specific cure or not cure something or that type thing. So I would use them at your own risk in raids. And also there's a lot of dying in raids, and there's a lot of wiping and regathering, and if you do that with mercs, you're going to have to wait that timer to get them back, and that could kind of slow your raid down a little bit.
Thanks for that. Duck Force asks, can you put your merc away and resummon on the fly and not pay while they're put away?
Yes, that's what I was referring to earlier about suspending. At any time outside of combat, you can tell your merc to suspend and they will basically go away. While they're suspended, they don't charge you anything, and they will just charge you when you bring them back for the first time. You do lose any time that you've invested, so if you pay your upkeep and then a minute or two later suspend them, when you bring them back, they're going to charge you the full upkeep again.
Okay, awesome. Kale976 asks, are there good and evil mercs?
I tried to steer away from defining them as good and evil. There are mercs that are aligned to different cities, so like there are mercs that are pretty much aligned to Kinos and aligned to Freeport. But like I said, you can unlock them in the other city if you go in and hire them. So with their stories and everything like that, I tried not to say, hey, they are specific to Freeport and they're a diehard Freeport fan. They're more agnostic, and they're willing to help you out if the money's right.
Okay, awesome. And we've got another question here. We have one on a plate too. That's awesome. All right. The Spin Den asks, if a merc dies, can it be rezzed?
No. Unlike players, if a merc dies, it pretty much automatically suspends. So that means you have to observe the 2-minute cooldown, and then once that cooldown is up and you're out of combat, you can resummon them then.
Okay, that's cool. And then the plate question, Lordair25 asks, can some mercs buff you?
Oh, absolutely. Mercs can do just about anything that a player can do. I mean, we didn't go as far as to make it to do everything that a player can do, but mercs will definitely bring buffs to the group, and the rare ones will bring unique buffs.
Okay. All right. That sounds pretty cool. And I actually have a question based on that. What happens if you betray your city and you've already have mercs that are on one side, and then you go, like, say you were Freeport, you betrayed a Kinos, what happens to the mercs that you've already gotten?
Nothing will happen. Since they're pretty much not, they're agnostic to who they work for. If you hire one in Freeport and then betray to Kinos, you still have that merc. It's still unlocked. It's still usable. You can, since you've already hired them, you can then hire them in the other city.
Okay. All right, thank you. That sounds pretty cool. Okay. And so we have just a few minutes left. We did want to cover, you said that you worked on EQ2 Share a little bit, and we just wanted to see. Okay, actually, we're going to move over to Akil next. So thank you very much for your time, and we will see you soon. All right, so Akil, you want to come over here? Oh, okay. Awesome. So we actually have two people. All right, so how's it going, guys?
It's going all right. How are things going?
Pretty good. How about you each introduce yourselves and say a little bit about what you do here at SOE?
Okay. My name is Akil Hooper. I'm lead designer for EverQuest II, so I do a little bit of everything. I get to make calls on stuff and boss people around and pretty much do whatever I want on the team.
I'm Michael Ganz. I'm Zelgud. I work on systems and mechanics, class balance, and I'm the one who implemented Beastlords for this expansion.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so what are you guys most looking forward to today?
I'm looking forward to playing Beastlord and start leveling up and taming pets and being awesome.
I'm looking forward to trying to get as high level as I can into Beastlord and getting an exotic pet first.
Okay. I'm sorry. Do you want him to do it again? Okay. All right, so on that note, let's talk a little bit about Beastlords. What kind of things can players expect from this class?
Beastlords are, why don't you go? Talk about Beastlords.
Beastlords are actually a little bit unique to EverQuest II. They're the first class that's really active. You don't just sit down and mash buttons, and if you actually try to put all of your buttons into like one macro, it's not really going to work. You have to watch what your pet is, your warder actually is doing, and then your warder will expose a weakness and allow you to use your advantages. Your advantages and regular combat arts will enable you to build savagery. Once you build enough savagery, you'll be able to attack with your primals, which will do either, depending on your stance, which is spiritual or feral, either a lot of damage or unique effects to buff your group or heal your group or ward your group. So they're a unique style compared to all of our other classes.
Okay, thank you. And what kind of animals can you tame for warders?
There are a ton. I mean, warders are broken down into 16 different families. So you've got like a bovine family, which has sheep and cows and goats, and you've got the feline family, which is tigers and lions, and so you can tame one pet from each family. But then there are tons and tons of different appearances in each of those families. So when you go out, you can pick which family you like to play with, and then pick which appearance you want that family to be. Do you have any idea how many different appearances we have?
I'm fairly certain we're over 1,000. If you can, as long as it's not really, really big, is one of the big reasons. You can pretty much tame it. You can't tame anything that's sentient or can think or speak. But you can tame drakes. You can tame wolves. All types of dogs. There's countless, and each one of these 16 families has a unique ability that it actually teaches you when you play with it enough.
Okay. All right, and what kind of AAs can people expect from Beastlords and from their warders?
Since Beastlords again are unique in the fact that we've actually added them with the AA system that was already existed. All the other classes actually started without AAs. So the Beastlords AAs are more tied to the class. Like if you want your survivability AAs, or survivability abilities really, you need to spec for them in your AA trees. The Animalist AA tree has two different lines that increase your damage in different ways. It has a line that increases your pet's survivability, has a line that increases your survivability, has a line that increases your savagery gain. The Echoes tree, the Beastlord class tree, is actually pretty much, it's built the same as most other classes. We did a revamp on that recently, so, but all the abilities are all based on the three aspects. It's either yourself, your warder, or your savagery, and then survivability, damage, or even healing and your utility aspects from your spiritual form.
He mentioned savagery a couple times, so just to explain a little bit what savagery is, when you're playing your Beastlord and you're working with your pet, like exploiting weaknesses, we've got another bar that is specific to Beastlords, which is a savagery bar. And as you exploit weaknesses and use combat arts, if you have your pet out and you're in a stance, you start to build up savagery, and that lets you use your more powerful abilities. And actually, your savagery will make some of your abilities more powerful when you use them. So all of them. So you want to save up. Sometimes you're going to want to save up your savagery for like a really big bang, or sometimes you're going to want to spend it early. And so there's lots of strategy in playing a Beastlord, and we can't wait to see what people do.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. And we're going to open it up to player questions now. So if you guys have any questions about Beastlords, we'll go ahead and get them answered live here on the webcast. So is there anything else that we maybe haven't covered in the meantime about Beastlords?
One thing that's come up a lot is that Beastlords are scouts, so they're a chain class. I know that EverQuest I Beastlords were leather, but there was just so much tied into our existing equipment system, it just didn't make sense to make them a leather class. And we're trying to re-envision them anyways. I mean, EQ1 Beastlords didn't have savagery either, and so we're a different class. We like to say that we're inspired by the EverQuest I Beastlords and not EverQuest I Beastlords. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And we'll have some questions here shortly. We have somebody writing them down. There's one now. Unforgiving asks, can you shrink your warder?
Yes, that was something that players really asked for in beta. So we implemented a shrink warder spell. I believe you get it at level 10.
All right, thank you. And let's see.
So,
Okay.
I'll talk about other stuff while you wait for more questions. Beastlords will have an epic quest in.
Okay.
At level 22, when you reach level 22 with your Beastlord, you start earning pet specialization points, which is an AA-like tree for your pet. But you don't earn them with experience like you do with AA. You earn them by leveling up. And you'll get them every few levels while you're leveling up. But then you're also a couple that you'll unlock through doing Beastlord-specific quests, which is something that's pretty unique to Beastlords. We never really put in a whole lot of class progression that's quest-based. So we think that'll be a lot of fun for players.
Okay, awesome. And Shirikan 722 asks, is savagery preserves between fights?
So you do keep your savagery, but when you're not in combat, it decays at a rather quick rate. There are certain abilities that you can get via AAs that will either reduce this penalty or disable it for a certain duration after leaving combat. I believe it's up to 24 seconds. It'll hold if you use the AA with all 5 points in it.
Very cool. And Penance asks, what is the difference between defense and DPS?
Between the stances.
Or maybe the warders too.
Yeah,
so I'll answer both questions.
Yeah.
The Beastlord doesn't really have a defensive stance. Their Beastlord's second stance is a spiritual stance. This stance, all of their abilities have a secondary component, either a group heal, a group power, even group DPS increases such as weapon damage bonus, multi-attack, crit bonus, and potency. And then they also have defensive buffs like mitigation, damage reduction, and wards. Their offensive stance, which is their feral form, is a tier 1 DPSer. It does take some time to build up. You can't just go crazy right off the bat. It takes a few seconds. But in feral form, they're a really powerful class, and then for damage. And then in spiritual form, they're very unique. They bring unique buffs, and you can select which abilities you're casting. You have a special hotbar. I don't know if we actually touched on that.
We didn't, yeah.
Where you have to actually equip specific abilities. And So you have more abilities than most other classes, but you're not casting as many of them because you have to have them equipped. You can't change what you have equipped in combat, and also there's a substantial penalty for changing stances in combat. You lose all your savagery if you switch stances. As far as warders, there's offensive and defensive warders. The difference between the warders is simply the offensive ones do a substantial amount more damage, and the defensive ones actually just have a substantial amount more survivability. They're easier to keep alive.
All right, thank you. And Butcher Block Taylor asks, why can't they use a bow?
So in EverQuest I, Beastlords, the Beastlords were a combination of the monk class and the shaman class, and monks and shamans neither can use bows, so Beastlords use throwing weapons instead of bows. We decided to go that way instead of letting them use bows. It was a flavor call, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. SP Shod Raider asks, epic weapon info, please.
It looks awesome. I can't wait to see someone get it, but it is. We didn't want to make an epic weapon that would instantly be that you're going to get at level 80 and you're instantly going to grow out of. So the Beastlord level epic weapon is going to be a level 90 weapon, and it is a top tier weapon. It's pretty awesome. So.
Okay.
Do you have more you want to add about the epic?
Sure. Okay. The quest is also extremely difficult, and it's fun. We've went through it a couple of times, and it teaches you how to play your class a little bit. But the mythical also has some unique effects to Beastlords, making it easier to keep your warder alive, and so you'll enjoy it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Artemic Lied asks, are there plans for more water types like snakes?
We didn't do snakes for aesthetic reasons, just because they're so low to the ground. So maybe, but you won't be able to tame every snake. We'd have to probably put in specific snakes that were tameable. There are plans for other water types. Specifically, we do have plans to do insects fairly soon, because insects aren't currently tameable. And in the future, we'll probably add more water types. But specifically right now, snakes are the next one. Insects are the next ones that we have coming.
Okay, cool. Rockface 2011 asks, how do the warders level?
That's a good question. So in terms of just level, your warders level up when you level up. But then Beastlords also have a unique bond with the warders that we call affinity. And the way affinity works is once you hit level 30, you can start gaining affinity with your pet. And it shows up in your pet window as a bar. And whenever you use your any of your combat abilities in combat.
Specifically savagery-based abilities.
Yeah, savagery-based abilities, you start to gain affinity with your pet, and as you fill up the bar, your pet will actually tier up. So you'll get that's the only way to get like the master version of your pet is to max out your affinity with your pet. And also when you reach max affinity, that's what Mike was talking about earlier. You'll unlock a primal ability that is specific for that pet family. Anything to add about?
The only thing is that they actually go to Grandmaster, not just Master.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Do we have any more player questions? Okay, so we're going to have a 5-minute break, but next up we're going to be talking about EQ2 Share. And we'll also be announcing the winners for people that ask questions, so stay tuned.